Hello and welcome to Bobbin Talk. In this video, I will talk to you about technology, CLO3D, and how that is important in the fashion industry, and maybe why you should be learning that software, how that will affect your life and your career as a fashion designer. Obviously, there are people on both sides of the line. Some people love technology. They're truly looking forward to integrating technology in their career, in how they express themselves, how they are advancing in their career as fashion designers. And there's also the other side of people who truly defend and also have a lot of respect for the traditional methodology of prototyping, of doing everything in physical form. I would like to disclose that I am absolutely a lover of technology. I've always wanted to be part of the fashion and technology part of the industry, but I am fundamentally a lover and a practitioner of truly respecting what the traditional methodology of making is. So let's take a look at why it might be a great idea for you to learn software like CLO3D, Blender, Rhino, and how that can improve the trajectory of your career into the fashion industry. Obviously, technology is an incredible tool that is helping any designer to draw faster, to prototype faster, to sample faster, to see how something will develop before it is made. There are definitely at least two different ways of creating in the fashion design process. One of them is the traditional method where you're sketching and then you are creating a physical prototype that could be with muslin if you're making a garment, or if you're creating accessories, you might be working with a material that's a bit harder that corresponds to the type of accessory that you will be making. In the fashion industry, there's also another method of draping first, then sketching the idea. That means that you might be working with the fabric, feeling how the fabric is acting in your hands. Is it draping, light and easy and airy? Is it conducive to more of a structured form? But that is still very much a physical methodology of working. Now, today I'm talking about the technology point of view and implementing that in the process of making. There's no denying that technology has entered every single aspect of our lives, from smartphones that help us navigate our life on a daily basis, to smart TVs, to obviously the fashion industry with graphics and creating, sketching, implementing all of the tools that we can in order to speed up the process or to create better designs on every step of the way. Technology has helped us create faster, better, maybe even more sustainable designs. Technology has helped us create faster, better, creative in a much more fast-paced way, and maybe even you could argue that's also a bit more sustainable, although that is questionable too in some ways, and I will address that in the video later. A lot of you are already familiar with the Adobe Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator. Maybe you have Procreate on your tablet and you're working with that to draw instead of with pen and paper, watercolors or pencils or markers. You are already using a technology like a tablet and a pen. Well, think about CLO3D or Blender or Rhino or any other software having that similar effect, but it is helping us move from 2D to 3D. So if you're thinking of the advantages of why you should be learning software like CLO3D, the first one is obvious, and that's technology integration. Technology is already in our daily life. It's only a matter of time that software like CLO3D will be integrated in the fashion industry. And it is not a question of when. It has already entered quite a few companies. Large corporations like Nike, for example, are not only integrating that in their process, but they're also hiring designers who are working with CLO3D. I personally have students who graduated from Parsons School of Design, and are being hired, particularly at Nike, to work as CLO3D designers and integrate that in their daily routine of working. The conversation of if CLO3D and other software like it is valid or not valid in the fashion industry is definitely an active, valid conversation. Just a couple of days ago, in one of my classes, we had that exact conversation. And there are definitely people who defend one side or the other. There are people who truly not only respect the process of making with physical materiality and seeing the shape develop in your hands, but also defend the idea of seeing and feeling the material, the stitching, the shape, and how that will truly look in 3D form. And there are absolutely people on the other side, and I have to admit that I lean more towards technology, but I have a respect for both. And on the other side, people who are much more technology inclined and love working with technology see a much faster progression of idea to executing in a 3D form and still seeing it from all sides and still seeing what the texture, the color would look like. Yes, you would not be able to feel it and touch it, but you can absolutely see that three-dimensional accessory, let's say a handbag or a piece of hardware even, will develop and what that would look like in a 3D form. You can change color very fast. That is absolutely a pro for working digitally. You can create and apply a print, a texture, any kind of a different material, and you will see that instantly change in a 3D environment, meaning in a technology environment on your screen, rather than going through the process of remaking a sample in a new material, maybe dyeing it or painting it in a new color, or adding a print that also means a new material and putting it all over again in a new 3D form. We have actual physical samples or prototypes of that. In that respect, technology gives you a faster prototyping capabilities. It gives you a much faster way to see color, texture, material. On the other side, you're not able to feel it and touch it. You can't really carry it or put it on as a garment and do a true fitting. Yes, you could put it on an avatar and see what that will look like, but that also is a point of argument, which one is a true fit. Next, I would say, is the true advantage that you're gaining within the industry. Software like CLO3D, Blender, these are newer software that are currently integrated in the fashion industry. So learning the software, being able to work with it, gives you an advantage of being one of the first people who are knowledgeable and capable and can work in the industry. The fashion industry is a bit slow in adopting software that has to do with 3D development, and there is still a lot of potential for growth. That means that there will be more and more jobs that have to do with development and working with simulation, developing patterns, developing prototypes, samples with software like CLO3D. So as this software is being adopted in the fashion industry, it is absolutely advantageous for you to be part of the people who already work with that software and can enter the industry, or can also improve if you're already in the industry, and gives you that extra skill that may be the difference between either advancing or even keeping your job. At Parsons School of Design in New York, where I teach, we have integrated CLO3D in the curriculum at junior level, that's year 3, just a couple of years ago. That means that we have only 2 or 3 graduating classes who know the software and can work with it. That puts you in a really good, advantageous position as students and new designers are coming into the industry, and more of them are capable in working with the software. That means that more and more companies will be adopting the software, and that is still the initial wave of people who are capable of working with that particular software. Think about Photoshop, Illustrator, in the very beginning when it was just recently adopted, and now it's just something that you have to know, something that you have to be able to use. It is common sense for almost any designer to be able to use Illustrator for flat sketches, to be able to use Photoshop or similar software to edit photos, to edit any kind of visual materials. Even if you consider services like Canva.com, that is still a variation of what Photoshop or similar software does. Working with similar type of software is now expected in the industry. So I can see CLO3D or variations, versions of that software to be expected as knowledge and a skill in the fashion industry in the coming years, I would say in the coming decades to come. Another advantage of CLO3D is the capability to prototype and simulate very fast. It is undeniable that by the time you create the patterns, by the time you sew a sample, get the correct fabric, you would be able to do many more samples and simulations in CLO3D. That speed of working is absolutely an advantage to anyone who is capable of working with software like CLO3D. That puts you at a much better space to be able to prototype and sample faster than someone who is creating a physical sample. And you can absolutely create different color variations, different color samples, different material samples. You can change scale, length at a much faster rate. You can do it in a few seconds as opposing to resewing or cutting and sewing an actual sample. With CLO3D, you can create actual real patterns in the 2D window, and you can print those and utilize them in your actual real life physical process. In CLO3D, you're creating real actual patterns that are then simulated on an avatar. That creative process in the 2D window can be very technical and very realistic, and that is absolutely up to the person who is working in the software. It can also be kind of random and simply throwing shapes together that kind of look good in the simulation, but the patterns are not real. But that's not you. You as a designer can create actual real patterns that can be graded, that can have correct measurements, the correct naming conventions on the pattern. And those patterns can be graded, they can have the proper seam allowance, and can absolutely be printed and then used for actual real samples. That gives you the advantage of seeing what that looks like on the avatar in your 3D window, and then expecting how that process can work for your real garment. So that is definitely an advantage. You're creating real patterns, you're printing real patterns, and you can expect to say 90%, if not higher, of the results that you have in the simulation in your 3D window to have similar results, if not exactly the same, on a real figure. The only thing that you need to consider here is the size of the avatar. If the avatar has the same measurement as your fit model, or if you're creating this for yourself as your measurements, then you can expect to see those exact results from 3D or 2D, 3D, from software to real life. Sustainability is definitely a component of utilizing software. And here I can also see 2 points of views here. There is a sustainability component of not using fabric, not using actual machinery, not using maybe dyeing fabric or utilizing chemicals or materials and wasting them. But there's also the other side of, yes, you are using electricity. Yes, you are using energy. You're using technology. Technology gets old, gets thrown away. So there is no waste on one side in terms of materials and processes, but there's also is arguably more or less, depends on how the technology is used. There's also a waste in using technology, discarding technology, and using energy. So that's up to you to decide if this is truly a sustainable saver, or it is something that is helping your process or it's hindering your process. I can see this come as a sustainable component for a small company that does not have enough resources in buying endless supply of materials, fabrics, or there's not enough budget to hire seamstresses. But this way you can simulate and you can see what the sample garment accessory looks like before it's made, and then proceed to the actual process of making it. CLO3D can be used very much as a technical aspect of the making process, where in the 2D window, you're creating patterns, you're creating different variations of the garment or accessory you're making, but it can also be used in a beautiful visual representation of your designs. That means that you can have one or multiple avatars walking on a runway or in a customized environment representing your collection of whatever product you're making. Or it can also be a creation of visual representation. It could be static, it could be short videos, and this way you could present your collection. So that can be truly the advantage of how you show your collection, of how you customize and show different sizes. You're showing different types of materials, colors in a much more cost-effective way. It also scales really well for showing your collection at some kind of a presentation on social media, on your website, and just presenting your work in a beautiful way. So these are some of the advantages of learning, utilizing, and using software like CLO3D, Blender, even Rhino, or any other software that will help you advance in the career of fashion design. Tell me how you like CLO3D. Have you used it already? Are you thinking of using it? Or is this something that is out of the question for you, that you have no intention of using, and why you wouldn't use it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. And if you can simulate an avatar that just pushes the subscribe button on Bobbin Talk, that would be quite amazing. And don't forget to physically, not simulate, but physically push the subscribe button on Bobbin Talk and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to physically push the subscribe button on the Bobbin Talk channel and subscribe to Bobbin Talk, where I would give you actual real videos, not some simulation. But I will also give you simulations in CLO3D.